Burn survivors to some may seem disfigured or grotesque as they stand out than other people, but as I've gotten to work with them, I've discovered that they are one of the most misunderstood groups of people and are the most strongest and greatest people I've ever met. Welcome to the analysis of a burn survivor. It all began from my mentorship for my senior project about burns at Turia, Norfolk General Hospital. I shadowed trauma surgeon Dr. Collins, who helped me along the way to learn more about burns. I also got to work with tons of medical students where I got to witness discussions and procedures. I stayed and worked in the BTU, but also the trauma bay where I got to witness trauma cases firsthand. I observed tons of burn surgeries where I got to see procedures such as debridement and skin grafting, dressing changes, and more. After I had witnessed and observed the medical side and treatment of burns, I wanted to take a step back and look at the emotional traumatic side. So I started to work with the Tidewater Burn and Trauma Survivor Support Group at the hospital that could help me and assist a visual way that I could aid burn survivors in the future. The meetings often take place in the Heart Hospital of Turia, Norfolk General, where burn and trauma survivors from the neighboring cities or who have just moved gather to speak about their healing and issues. What would you say is your favorite thing about being in this group?
My favorite thing about being in this group is being able to interact, because to me, I was always a people person, so interaction is good and it helps me to heal. Sometimes I would go to the mall and just walk the malls for hours at a time, just trying to meet people and meet and greet, and just to walk and shop and talk and look. So that just blessed me.
And what would you say for trauma, what would you say is the most important thing you would want people who are not trauma survivors to know, to be aware of?
If you're not a trauma survivor and you're still trying to cope, I think the biggest thing for me was trying to cope to deal with the state that I'm in now. My mental state, my physical state of what I can and can't do. And I know that God has a way that we can do all things through Christ which strengthens us. So I don't put limitations on God, and I don't put limitations on people, because I believe that God can move mountains and God can do the impossible. So just coming in this room, being embraced with love and the peace and joy that other people share and have was helpful to me.
Mr. Harris, a trauma chaplain, often facilitates the support group meetings.
In relationship with you, experience that same trauma in a different way, right? And that's called secondary post-traumatic stress, right? As a trauma chaplain, I had to go to counseling, and I had to realize that I was experiencing secondary post-traumatic stress. And so oftentimes what we experience our families doing, shutting down, pushing away, not coming around, some of that is because they don't know how to handle your trauma, right? Because maybe you were the independent person.
Very welcoming towards the other survivors and invites others to share.
My name is Byron Harris, and I am a certified chaplain here in the Norfolk area. And I worked as a trauma chaplain here in Norfolk General Hospital for about 5 years. My job, my responsibility to the group is to facilitate a support group. My background is in psychology, learning behaviors and disorders. That's my undergraduate degree. And I also have a background in counseling, as well as a Master's of Divinity. So my educational pursuits are that of helping people to process information, helping them to process grief in a healthy way. And so my main goal is just to let people tell their stories, and in telling their stories, being able to find healing in telling their stories. It's not about having the answer to the stories or to the questions that they have. It's more about letting people kind of dig into their own places of comfort and being able to find healing in them telling their own stories.
So I picked up my arm, and I didn't think I could ever see again, and I was like looking at pills like this, but I did it. And right now I can't do it right now, but I did it. It doesn't matter what I can't.
The group actually started back in 2012 from co-founder and president Cliff Golby, who was a survivor.
I was in the hospital for almost a year and a half. My backyard here in Virginia Beach.
Yes, yes.
So when I was doing my burn stuff, there wasn't a burn support group in the area, and so I reached out to the hospital, and over time, we built this burn support group. It's been about 7 years now, I guess, since we started the burn support group.
The members often get food before they start the meetings. From the burn support group, what would you want burn survivors or trauma survivors to take away the most from the meeting?
I'd say comfort and their place in their journey. So there was many times when I was going through my journey early on, and it wasn't a burn support group, and there was times where I wasn't very comfortable with where I was and what I was facing, and my spot in my journey. So there was a time where I went to the World Burn Congress the Phoenix Society puts on. It's a real large gathering of burn survivors, but it did a whole lot for me, feeling better about where I was in my journey by seeing all the other people and where they are in their journey and what they have to face and deal with. And sometimes some of the stuff that I face and deal with isn't so bad. So it really helped me get a grasp of where I was in my journey, and I hope that the support group does the same thing for people that come to it and see other people that are going through the same thing they're going through, but at different stages along in the journey.
Might not work for you or for I. It might be Hinduism. It might be being a Wiccan. Because the reality of the matter is I've met a couple of Wiccans while I was working here at the hospital. And what I have enjoyed about the Wiccan tradition is that they are very connected to the earth.
The next morning, I couldn't open my eyes because I had blisters over my eyeballs. And believe it or not, my skin peeled and everything, and they put that silver sun or whatever it was on my face, and it didn't leave no scarring. The second time I got burnt, I had just lost a baby. I had a tubal pregnancy, and they had to do surgery on me. And I was making, my brother just brought me out from the hospital, and I was making some iced tea. And my son, I did not know it, I took the picture and put cold water in it to put in his fish aquarium, and here I poured the same hot water in that picture. It was like somebody sliced the bottom of that picture off, and I'm leaning against the counter. All that hot water come down, and I had my pants on. And my brother was the fireman, he kept saying, pull your pants down. I said, well, go out of the room, and I started pulling down, you go back in, how bad are you burnt? So it was like a comedy, so like 13 times, finally I went in the next room, and I told James, I told his wife to go get my moo-moo, and I told my son to go across the street and get me, because my brother was more upset than I was, him a fireman. So when I pulled my pants off, all my skin came down, and my underpants was burned into my skin. So I had to go to the emergency room. They didn't have none of this stuff they got now. I had to go down there every day and be treated, and they put that on there.
I was so amazed by the group, the big sense of support that they all had for each other. According to the Phoenix Society for Burn Survivors, there are 3 phases of burn trauma that survivors overcome: sense of safety, mourning and telling the story, and reconnecting with life, something that Mr. Harris has been focusing on in the past few months.
But it may bring meaning and purpose, right? And so the idea and the challenge for us at this table is to find out, if you don't know what brings you meaning and purpose, find out what it is. If it's Jesus, that's great. If it's Buddha, fantastic. If it's Islam, Allah, fantastic. Whatever it is, if it's painting, if it's drawing, if it's dancing, if it's going to the pool, if it's going to the gym, whatever.
After many of the meetings, I wanted to sit down with one of the members. I sat down with survivor of Steven Johnson syndrome, Vivian Dance.
I became, feeling real bad, urinary infections. My eyes were burning. I thought I had conjunctivitis. I thought I had thrush, and I told her, gee, I don't feel good. I'm just so thirsty. Mm-hmm. And I went to color my hair, and my hair turned orange. And the next day, I just pulled the hair out.
Wow.
So within that week, my daughter was, I don't know when she was watching Mystery Diagnosis, because we're a medical bus. So she was watching, she saw a man who had Steven Johnson syndrome. and they told his story, but he died. They couldn't save him. You got to be within 48 hours of a burn center. This is a type of disease that is fatal. You don't live through this. I'm fortunate and blessed to live through mine. I was over 65% of my body was burnt. What happened was, that week was the week of the 8th, January. That, I think the day before, it was like a Wednesday, and my daughter said, I woke up saying, I'm thirsty, I'm hot. Take me to the hospital. And I don't remember saying that. I remember leaving the house. She said that when I walked out, I fell against my cousin, and they put me in the car, and they were driving to the hospital. I don't remember the hospital. I don't remember leaving the house. I don't remember anything. I don't remember being in Riverside. I don't remember them wheeling me in. She said they pushed me in, and she said my face was like real huge, and my color was turning real dark, and my lips were like 3 big lips laying out there. And the nurse, I put a mask on, and my daughter said she's really having a reaction to something. We don't know what it is. The nurse said, oh my God, she's having a most severe anaphylactic reaction to something. So she said that they wheeled me back into the room, like, a couple, a nurse and a doctor might come in, but Linda said that those two went out, 15 of them came in, rushing. One of the doctors, who was a ENT doctor, touched my forehead. What is this? And when he did that, she said I screamed, and my skin went peeling off. And when I came forward, all my back peeled off. Oh, it's called slushing. That's where you're really serious. They took me into the OR, and they put a vent on me. Put me up in the ICU. This is Riverside, Newport News. And my doctor came, because she kept telling me, look for Stephen Johnson, look for Stephen Johnson. They said, we can't do that. Your primary has to do that. She said, no problem. And she called her. And she dropped all her patients and left and came to the hospital. And the ER doctor said, yes, it is. It is Stephen Johnson. And when she got upstairs, she said that she told my kids, my son, my daughter, she is not going to make it unless she get into a burn center. There's one in Richmond and the one in Santerre and Norfolk. They should send her to Santerre and Norfolk, and that's what she said they wouldn't send me by ambulance, they sent me by helicopter. I know. Stephen Johnson robs you of, you think it robs you of everything you have in life that you thought you were and could be, but you are still those. You're in here is you. This is just the shell of you here, but I looked at me when I first saw me, I cried. I just screamed. I told the doctor, I said, I'm in the hospital, I said, what'd you do? Take me to the jungle and shrunk my head, I look like some big old shrugging head. And he would say, Miss Dance, no, you shrunk my head, And that's how I thought they did, But they didn't. They saved my life. So. And my advice to people who are burnt, find out your niche. Don't let somebody give it to you. Just find out your niche. What is it that, if you like to cook, then do that. If you like to draw, then do that. If you like to sit and just talk, get
as long as read. As long as read.
What do you call it? Video or something you could talk in, microphone talk. Tell your story. The best way I know people is to tell the story. Then you say, why me? Why me? That's the question they will ask. Why did it happen to me? Because it did. Now, how do you deal with it? Some people need more help, more guidance, more holding hands, and let's get through it. You will. It's like Pastor Byron said, it's the new.
Her daughter, Linda Ventros, attested to the story.
Acceptance. To not only see the inward of yourself, but to project outward and reach out when you know you can't handle it your own self. Ask somebody, hey, I'm having one of those days. Can you just be here and hold my hand? Can you just listen? Can you just, let me sing to the top of the world, even though you're watching your favorite TV show? She's constantly apologizing to me because I'm watching TV and she's singing. It's like, I'm sorry. It's like, no, you need this. At that moment, you need it. And if she's watching something that I don't want to watch, then I'll listen to my music. Drive her crazy. But then I know I drive her crazy because I can't sing.
Oh, yes, you can.
But no, it's been eye-opening. It's been revealing.
Advice I would give them is to be strong. If you can't help yourself, find some help to help you through this. They can't do it for you. You got to do this yourself, but they can guide you. And then you make up in your mind, I can do this. Because if it didn't kill you, then you just know that you're gonna live, you're gonna move on. But it takes that individual. You have to take each person who's burned as an individual and how they are gonna deal with it. I might dealt with it like I could sing, I could dance, and I could draw. They might say, I just want to sit in a corner and cry. If that's the way they could empty out, okay, it's okay. Just know that you got help out there. You're not the only one. But at that point, when you're burnt, you think you are the only one that's been so severely damaged. But you're not. You're not. And you're not alone. You got help. It depends on your faith, too. If somebody said, well, I don't believe in the greater I am, that's okay, too. Whatever you do believe in, lean on the strength of whatever you do believe on. If you say, I can't do it, I will never walk again, you will never walk again.
We have our own PTSD. And the group just allows to be open and let you explain to people who don't. It lets you explain to people who are roughly in the same area of life as you are. When you can't even talk to your best friends, or you can't even talk to you sometimes say, Grandma, I wish you were here so I can talk to you. But then you find somebody else who's in the same, basically the same boat and say, this is what's happening. This is how I feel. And it's a wonderful feeling. Because after my surgery, they tried to get me to a psychologist. And I didn't know how to express it. Now I'm coming to terms and knowing how to express it a lot better.
Some members in the group had recommended this book, Burned and Unbroken, by Eleanor Blecker, whose husband had a burn incident 20 years ago in the Norfolk area. I decided to interview her so I could get to know more about her experiences.
I'm in a position to really help people because we have been through the trauma, survived it, lived in the aftermath, but figured out how to kind of make the best of it and how to trust God to work all things together for good over the long haul.
Right.
And we can look back on our life now and say, wow, it really worked for us to walk a walk of faith and walk those things out that we learned in the midst of a trauma. So my answer would be to help people. People have asked me, somebody asked me, so did you find it healing for you to write the book? Did you feel you needed to write it to deal with things on my own? And I'm like, no. It was very traumatic to go back after all these years.
Right.
I do not feel I benefited from it. I feel that I went through the pain again. And to tell you the truth, honestly, I would not have chosen to do that, but it is an honor for me to do that if I think somebody can read the book and believe for their miracle as well.
Survivor, what is the advice that you would kind of give to them?
My first thought when you say that is to say, do not allow yourself to get alienated. Take a good inventory of those around you who really care about you. They may not understand what you're going through, and that is okay. we cannot blame others for not really truly understanding what you are going through.
Right.
But do not, because when you're in pain and when you're in the aftermath, it's very easy to push other people away, because you would deal with a lot of things and think, you don't know what I'm going through, and some even anger and bitterness can come up that's not helpful in building healthy connections and friendships. So even if people do not know what you've gone through and they want to be with you and they want to love on you and they want to comfort you, just let them. Just let people be there for you, even if you know they have no idea what you are going through, because you need people. You just need people around you who can give you the perspective from outside of your world that is hurting, that can look at you and say, come along, encouraging you and helping you find hope. Just let people into your world, let people love you. Stay close to God, stay close to others, because I think what will make the whole situation even worse than what you've already gone through is if you become a lonely, bitter person.
Right.
As well as the burn survivor. That is true for any kind of life-altering, life-threatening, life-changing event. I think people are crucial to help you through situations, and at the same time, some people walk through difficult times, the loss of a child or a traumatic fire burn or whatever the case may be, and their relationships suffer in the long haul.
I also spoke with Tiffany Lord, burn program coordinator and nurse clinician at the VCU Evan Haynes Center, to get some of her insight.
Psychological component to a burn, and making sure that we provide them with the best ability to heal.
A burn victim or survivor who is leaving the hospital and out of that environment, what would you recommend to them, in every aspect of their life, health-wise, what they should be eating, and emotionally, physically, what should a burn survivor do to upkeep their healing process, I guess?
Yeah, we tell them a couple of things. When we discharge home, we always teach them how to do really good wound care, because a lot of their wounds aren't totally healed yet. So we're going to teach them how to clean their wounds every day. If they can't do it themselves, we teach a family member or a friend or somebody that can help them.
Right.
Show them how to wrap them up, keep them covered up. We tell them to eat more protein-based foods. They need a little bit more protein while they're in the healing process. So we do encourage high-protein foods. It doesn't always have to be meat. There's plenty of other proteins they can eat. We tell them to stay out of the sun for about a year to 18 months. And if they need to be in the sun, make sure they're wearing a really good sunscreen, because that skin, you've probably seen some of it, is so it's like big again. So we just want to make sure they don't burn it accidentally, get a sunburn on it. Make sure they do their follow-up appointments. They're coming back and seeing us on a regular basis, but the really good part is they're also, when they come back to see us, they're also coming back and seeing the occupational therapist and the physical therapist if they need to make sure they get full range, and make sure they're doing scar massage so their scars don't get too thick and too tight. Making sure they've got good movement, so if they burn their elbow, can they extend and flex their arm properly, and what can we do to help them with that? So follow-up is really important. And then we also encourage our patients to kind of go on not outpatient, but do a support group. We offer a support group once a month. So we encourage them, if they need that, to reach out to the support group. Sometimes it's helpful for them or their family members to come also and talk to people who've been in their shoes and have been in their position before. It's sometimes it's hard, but it's going to get better. It's going to get easier, and it is a lot of baby steps, but it's just patient, ask questions, try and find out what resources there are. There's always going to help out and give them good advice, and so just to be patient with themselves also. They've just been through something that's traumatic, and it's hard to get over, and sometimes you have to be patient with yourself and be okay with how you feel at that time.
Right.
But eventually it gets better. That's what we like to tell them, small baby steps, and 6 months from now you'll be amazed how far you've come.
I learned so much from observing burn cases at the hospital to the various interviews that I have and looking through that footage. I still have a lot to learn, just like how many burn survivors have a lot to learn on their journeys while they're healing. And I hope to continue this sort of endeavor in the future. I'd like to thank the co-founder and president of the Tidewater Burn and Trauma Survivors Support Group, Eleanor Becker, Vivian Dance, Linnevan Tross, all of the members of the Tidewater Burn and Trauma Survivors Support Group. They were immense help to me. Dr. Collins, Tiffany Lord, and just allowing me to film and allowing me to showcase what a wonderful group of people and how strong they really are. Thank you so much for watching, and you can visit bsrtidewater.weebly.com to check out more medical information. Thank you.